We've also, in the last few days, congratulated recipients of some honorary doctorates. And again, we are very proud of our honorary doctorates, and we don't give them lightly. I'm going to ask our Vice Chancellor, Professor Pillay, to come and address us and talk a little bit about some of the recipients of those doctorates. Professor Pillay.
Thank you everyone for being with us this evening. It's always good to see our friends, members of staff, and I know my members of staff well enough, but I often don't get to see their spouses. So it's a great evening to see the other half of the team that work very, very hard. And of course to have many friends in the city that make the time to be with us on occasions like this. As the Pro-Chancellor said, we are celebrating 175 years, and as we keep reminding ourselves, and we say this ad nauseam, and we need to repeat it because people think that Liverpool Hope is another modern new university. We keep having to remind ourselves that, hang on, we've never been a polytechnic or a college that became a university recently, that in the 1840s, when 90% of the population had no access to education, the Education Reform Act of 1832 makes it compulsory for the first time, and the government does very little in the first decade or so. And it's the churches that come on the scene. 1844, St. Catherine's, made in 56, it's Notre Dame. And of course later on, after the Vatican Council, 1964, Christ. And these three colleges are pioneering. I grew up, as you probably know, in South Africa, and I'm the fourth generation descendant of Indian immigrants that were taken from India to the British colony of Natal. And I grew up quite frustrated with colonial governments, because they didn't treat these immigrants very well. The suicide rates were much higher for them than their counterparts in India. It was a terrible time. And I always grew up feeling how difficult life was. And the first, again on the scene in the 1860s, first to create opportunities for women to be educated, to create the first opportunities for my forebears, were the churches, the Methodists, the Anglicans, the first clinic, where exactly the history here. And I grew up frustrated until I got to Liverpool to discover why should I have been frustrated with 1860 settlers in Natal when in 1844, 16 years earlier, 90% of the population didn't have access to education here in the homeland. And again, it's the Catholic and the Anglican churches and others who rally around and create the first opportunities. So it's in the DNA of this place that we will look out for bright people, we pull down the barriers, we'll break down class privilege the best way we can. And everybody, regardless of their background or colour or religion or status in society, everybody who has promise will get a serious education. And that's our commitment, and that's why we do what we do at Liverpool Hope. We get people who are rich, and people from middle and upper middle class come too, but we constantly remind ourselves that 175 years ago, this is how we started. And whatever else we do, and all the other accolades we may get, at the heart of this place will be this obligation, irrespective of who's the Vice Chancellor or who's the Chancellor, and who happen to be on the staff for a time. So we have a lot to celebrate, and I'm delighted that you're here to celebrate it with us. The Pro-Chancellor mentioned several guests in the room, and I want to mention at least 4 of them again, because what we have been doing over these years is build a global network of like-minded institutions right across the world, and that network is growing. Dr. Brewer, who is here as president of Louisiana College, one of our network of the consortium in America, delighted to have you here with us. And something we've never done before is ask a forgets to pay for his dinner. And he will be doing that for the first time. We've never asked any other president this way. But he'll be playing for us in a little while. He'll be playing a short piece on the piano, so great to have him. But we also have the head of the Christian Women's College in Chennai. The Madras Christian College and the Women's College are two very prestigious independent colleges in India, and we're delighted to have Dr. Jasper with us, Dr. Lillian Jasper, and the vice principal of Stella Maris, a well-established partner who sends us many students each year to do their MBAs with us. Dr. Kennedy is here as well. And then, of course, we're also very privileged to have the principal of St. Xavier's in Mumbai, who only got here last night, and Dr. Shinde, Dr. Rajendra Shinde, a Jesuit foundation, a very prestigious foundation in Mumbai, friend. It's wonderful to have you with us today. We also had 4 extraordinary honorary recipients of honorary doctors this year. We always have extraordinary ones, but these 4 are quite exceptional. Archbishop Paul Gallagher, a Catholic priest from Liverpool, becomes the head of the diplomacy in the papacy. And what an extraordinary man. Privileged to meet him yesterday. And Archbishop Paul was with us and received the doctorate yesterday. Sir Peter Lynn, who, as you know, is the head of the Sutton Trust, and does a great work in helping pull barriers down for those born in disinherited postcodes in this country, and makes it, the Sutton Trust does great work, and he was here, and not only did he inspire us and share our values, but he discovered hope, and I think he goes back as a great ambassador of our place. And tomorrow, we didn't know he was going to be the poet laureate, but Professor Simon Armitage accepted this long before he became the poet laureate, and he will be with us, and tomorrow we'll receive an honorary doctorate, and we'll hear Simon, Professor Armitage tomorrow. But the 4th is with us, and she's Professor Monica Grady, whose voice I knew before I met her. Because there's no discussion on radio or television that deals with space that doesn't feature Professor Grady. And I'm also delighted that her husband, also a scientist, was with us today, and is with us tonight, and members of the family, a warm welcome to you. We're going to now invite another honorary doctorate, Winifred Robinson, Dr. Robinson. Winifred, I've not had a chance to say hello yet. Who are you? Welcome. And instead of having a speech, after-dinner speech this evening, we're going to have an expert interviewer in Dr. Robinson actually interviewing Professor Grady. And that's why these things are out here. So we'll be able to get to know Professor Grady much better after this discussion, after which I'll return to invite Professor Grady to speak on behalf of all the recipients this time. So, Penny, are you going to go straight into this discussion? We are waiting. Here it is.
Thank you, Professor Pillay. So I'd like to invite our new honorary doctor and our old honorary doctor to the platform. Winifred, I think it's over to you.
Brilliant. Want to try yours? I'll try mine. It's nice to be the comic turn. Now, Professor Monica Grady is a leading British space scientist and
She's famous for her work on meteorites or shooting stars, and she's currently a professor of planetary and space science at the Open University. We were just talking over dinner, and I was saying that when you're a journalist, people ask you about the famous, interesting people that you've interviewed. And since I got my doctorate here, and I have been invited back, I find that when people ask me about the interesting people, they tend to be people that I have interviewed here. Because I think the people that get doctorates from this place, not me of course, they have a kind of spiritual element to them that always makes the encounter uplifting and transcendent, or as an Anglo-Saxon would say, gets you out of yourself. So I should say that Monica's also known as the Queen of the Red Planet, because she's devoted a lot of her life to studying life on Mars. So before we land on Mars, Monica, tell me, how did you get interested in meteorites? Where did that come from?
Well, it came from when I was living, and for the first 18 years of my life, I lived on the correct side of the Pennines, because I come from Leeds. And of course, one of the things about living in Leeds is it's easy to get away from. So the Yorkshire Dales, the North York Moors, beautiful landscape. So I was always interested in rocks. And also in the night sky. I like to see the night sky, I like to see the stars. And I knew from a relatively early age, an age about 7 or 8, that I wanted to be a scientist, even before I knew what a scientist was. And just from the background, from where I lived, and seeing, going, I don't know how many of you know the landscape around Leeds, but there's a place called Brimham Rocks, where there are amazing sorts of great big piles of millstone brick piled one on top of each other. And they're just amazing. Just, it's like, well, how did they get there? You know, how could they have fallen over? And just things like that, and to try and understand what has brought us to where we are. And that's how I started.
Meteorites are fragments of rock from outer space that survive as they come through the atmosphere. I had to Google that before. How exactly do you study them then when you hold them in your hand? You know, what do you do with them?
I burn them.
Really? You heat them up?
I burn them. Yeah, well, when you have a meteorite and you're holding it in your hand, well, first of all, your hand is very carefully gloved, all right, because we don't actually like to handle them without gloves in case we contaminate them. And what you're holding in your hand is you're holding a rock that's older than anything that's on Earth, and it's a very easy number to remember. It's 4, 5, 6, 7 million years old, 4,567 million years old. And you look at it and you think, when I break this open, I'm going to be seeing something that no eyes have ever seen before. And it's quite humbling to think you're looking at this. And what geologists do, I mean, they see a rock and they take a hammer to it. It's as simple as that, rock, hammer, wham. Because from the outside you can't tell. And then what we do is we cut a very thin slice of it and polish it. And it's so thin that you can shine light through it on a microscope. And it was looking at Apollo 11 samples for the first time when I was at Durham University as an undergraduate. That's what switched me on to wanting to look at extraterrestrial stuff. Because if you look at the moon, it's silver with grey bits. If you look at the surface of the moon, you know, there's enough documentaries at the moment, you should be able to catch one of them. It looks grey. When you look at a slice of the moon in a thin section, it's like looking at a stained glass window, because the minerals there, the crystals, they are clear, and they're pink, and they're green, and they're blue, and they're orange, and they look beautiful. And those different colours and the different minerals tell you how the rock has been formed. And then what I'm interested in is carbon. and that burns like coal. So the analogy I use is if you take a pencil and wrap it in tissue paper and start to burn it, things will happen. And I use this analogy to school children, all right? And none of you have done the same thing that school kids do. They usually put their hands up and go, Miss, 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 we don't have pencils made of wood. They're made of recycled tyres. They're made of recycled Coca-Cola bottles and things like that. Oh, that'll do as well. But if you think of a traditional pencil, and you wrap it in tissue paper, and you put it in an oven, and gradually raise the temperature, first of all, the tissue paper will burn, warmth. And then as the temperature gets higher, the wood from the pencil will burn, and there'll be a pulse of carbon dioxide. And then the graphite from the centre of the pencil, when the temperature gets even higher, that will burn into carbon dioxide. So you get 3 pulses of carbon dioxide from the tissue paper, from the wood, and from the graphite. And they are very characteristic temperatures. And so if I now burn an unknown, and I see a temperature, and I see the carbon that it's made from, that starts telling you what carbon it is. You can understand maybe where it's come from. That's a very long-winded. I should have said to you. I tend to talk until physically restrained.
It's delightful.
But that's what I do. I set fire to meteorites.
Now you're a sort of story catcher, aren't you, for meteorites? And you were in charge of the collection of meteorites at the National History Museum. Is there a particular story, a great story?
Oh, there are loads of stories about meteorites. Oh, there's wonderful stories about meteorites, all sorts of ones. It's great going back into the archives to hear them. Especially a lot of the meteorites that we have in the National Collection have come from countries that were part of the British Empire. And there's one particular enormous meteorite called Cranborne, which is a star of the display. It's a huge, great big thing. And it was found Cranborne in Australia, Victoria, I think. And somebody was out there, and he saw this metal thing in the ground. And he said to the local people, do you know what that is? No idea. They've been there for ages. So he said, oh, can I have it? And they said, yeah, sure, no problem. So he dug it up, or he tried to dig it up, and he dug it up, and he dug it up, and it came out this 4-ton great big iron meteorite. So he shipped it back to the British Museum Brackett's Natural History, as it was then, who carefully cleaned it up and put it on display. But by the time they'd done all this, the governor of Victoria had realised that this treasure had gone. And there's a fantastic correspondence between the trustees of the museum from the early 19th century to the governor of Victoria. And then letters from the trustees to each other, sort of, oh, we've had another whining letter from those Australians. They still want their specimen back. What are we going to do about it? And so it's all these sorts of things, the human stories that go with the meteorites. It is great. But then when you look at the meteorites themselves and you try and untangle the story that the meteorite is telling. And so in 1969, we know Apollo happened, but a huge meteorite fell in northern Mexico in February 1969. And it was collected by all the scientists and engineers who were working at Houston, 1,000 miles away, short hop on the plane. They all went down there to collect this meteorite, so loads of it was collected. And what we've learned from that meteorite, you can untangle the bits inside it. And you can see that this one formed this way, and this one formed this way. And actually, this one must have formed 3 million years before that one. And you might think, well, 3 million years, that sounds like a lot. That's no time. But to be able to put a really precise step, and to be able to start saying, right, we've got this timeline of solar system history, understanding how these were formed, understanding how the processes went on which formed our planet is really great. And they're stories that I like to read and I like to tell.
Let's talk about your spiritual life, because people will also know you from prayer for the day. That's the really early prayer that's on Radio 4. It's about 5:45. I hear it every day anyway because I have to get up early. So here you are, you're handling and exploring these rocks from the beginning of the solar system. What do you feel they've taught you then about God?
Well, I think it would probably not be very tactful to say absolutely nothing.
That was a dumb question.
Because it's not true. It's not true. I mean, I said earlier I took the inspiration to be a scientist from the rocks of Yorkshire. And the beauty and splendour of those rocks. And I describe the beauty and splendour of the Apollo rocks. And to me, my faith, it's about mercy. I don't believe in a God of divine retribution. I believe in a God of mercy. Because, I mean, she is merciful. I mean, she really is. She speaks to us. And to me, meteorites are a thing of beauty, and they're a thing of wonder, and they're a thing of awe. And I can't say that, they have helped increase my spiritual life, but having the privilege and the fortune to be able to study them and to basically do what I want to do, it makes me incredibly lucky, incredibly fortunate. And for that, I give gratitude, as we heard at the service this morning. And I do feel gratitude. I feel honoured and privileged to be able to handle these very rare and precious objects.
So your faith, your religious faith, that predates all that?
Oh yes, I mean I was born a Catholic, brought up a Catholic, and I remain a Catholic. Yeah.
Do you pray a lot?
Well, I said a prayer before I came here. just covering all the bases, I don't pray as much as I ought.
I mentioned Mars at the start, and I know that you have looked at the possibility of life on Mars. Tell us what kind of life that would be.
Well, unfortunately, if there is life there, it's not likely to be very highly evolved. I mean, we've got so many images, so many pictures of the surface of Mars that if there were rabbits there, we would have spotted them. We'd know, especially if there were dinosaurs there, we would certainly have spotted them. So it's very likely that if there is any life there, it's going to be microbial. It's going to be not very high up the evolutionary tree. And that's because the planet is dry. I mean, there's subsurface ice, there's ice at the poles, and there's a very, very low pressure of water in the atmosphere, incredibly low. So the planet is dry, and as we know, life needs water. There was water on Mars. At the time when the Earth's surface was still incandescently hot, Mars's surface was cool, and there was water there. So life could have got going on Mars before it got going on the Earth, but it would probably have petered out because it didn't have the physical conditions and the environment to allow it the space and the time to evolve.
Some scientists say that if we find life on Mars, as you said, it would only be microbial life, then it would be a kind of second Genesis. What do they mean by that?
What they mean by second Genesis is a second example of life getting going. So we are the first Genesis. And we think we sort of understand a lot of the processes that went on. There were atoms, and then physics happened. Well, there were particles, and then physics happened, and there was atoms. And then chemistry happened, and there was molecules, and molecules reacted with each other and got bigger. And then biology happened, and a cell formed, and there was formation of chromosomes and splitting of chromosomes and reproduction, which is great. And then there was evolution, all right? And it's like huge jump from cell division to evolution, with things, gaps in it, and different ways of evolution and carrying on a genetic history, hereditary. There are things that we understand, and all those processes, physics becoming chemistry, becoming biology, becoming evolution, all they need is the right temperature, the right pressure, the right ingredients. So there's no reason why that shouldn't have happened on Mars. A second example of life forming, it might be on Europa, on Jupiter's Saturn, a third example. But we don't know. And I think what's really interesting is, what do we do? What does it mean to us if there is a second example of where life could have got going? Because this huge gap between a membrane forming and a template for self-replication, DNA, and evolution and going from a single-celled microorganism up to primates, there are things along the way, like consciousness, the development of the brain, language, the appreciation of beauty, music. Those are the sort of things that I have no idea where they came from. I have no idea how you could get this single-celled organism, which then becomes 2 cells, which becomes 4 cells, which becomes so on and so on. And then you get the development of consciousness, development of language. I mean, people have traced that in other species. That's not my subject, I don't know it. That to me is wonder and awe. And then you get chance. Evolution was going on at a cracking great pace. The dinosaurs were doing really, really well. And then 65 million years ago, an enormous great big asteroid came down, impacted the Earth, changed the environment so severely that the dinosaurs couldn't survive, they couldn't adapt. But the little furry things that could burrow and hibernate could adapt. So the mammals started to become the dominant species. And of course the cockroaches survived and still do, without much change. So whatever happens on one planet is unlikely to be replicated completely on another planet. So we might see an evolutionary sequence, but it might not, it's very likely wouldn't end with primates with 2 arms, 2 legs, a nose, and 2 eyes and a mouth.
And before we leave it, let's go back to your prayers for the day, because the one that I remember was about the death of your mother, and it was about our parents validating us. And what I remember about the prayers is that they nicely linked those complex psychological things that interest us now with the book, with the Bible. So tell me, what was your link between that unique validation that a good parent gives us? That's the thing we miss, isn't it, when our parents are gone? Someone who's always interested in you, somebody who is always pleased to see you, with the Bible.
I was asked by the BBC to do these essays, and I knew that they were going to be broadcast after Christmas, and that the last one would be on January the 6th, the Feast of the Epiphany. And I thought, there have been several epiphanies in my life, and I would talk about the different epiphanies that I've had and link them to the stories from the Bible. So one epiphany I had was when I was pregnant, and for the first time I saw our son, the ultrasound scan, and heard, it was the heartbeat actually in the monitor, the heartbeat. And it's not just suddenly the reality of you're going to be a mother. You've got this living being inside you. And then you try and link that to Mary and the epiphany she must have had when she was told. Now, I'm not good on the virgin birth, right? I don't do the virgin birth, but the story's good. And it's one of those, what must she have felt? What sort of terror and shame when she found she was pregnant. And my epiphany wasn't terror. Well, it wasn't shame, it was terror. It's like, how can I be responsible for this? And so all the stories were of the different epiphanies, and the final one was when I talked about the death of Mum. And my father died, he died in 2000, so 19 years ago now, but 17 years ago then. And as Winifred has said, you suddenly realise there's nobody to validate your life. There's nobody who's going to love you unconditionally. You go away on holiday. Who's the first person to ring when you get back to say, I'm back? And they've gone. They're not there. My mother, if she could have been in the cathedral today, and my father was from Liverpool. He went to school at St. Francis Xavier's. This was his school hall. You know, for him to come back here for dinner, well, I mean, he was a Scouser, so he wouldn't have said anything like, I'm really proud of you, or anything like that. Goodness me, that shouldn't have happened. But suddenly you've lost one parent, and then you've lost the second one, you're an orphan, right, okay? You might be getting on for 60, but you still had that person who was there for you, whatever happened, and suddenly they've gone. Suddenly there's no more grown-ups. Suddenly you realise, crikey, I've grown up. And it is a very, very difficult thing to deal with. And so these are the things I talked about, because again I talked about how some of the apostles must have felt when Jesus went, when he died and left. And the epiphany they had, exactly called it Pentecost, that was an epiphany for them. So and it was a great privilege to be able to do those essays, actually. I think I learned a lot about myself when I was writing them.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Just before we leave it, you were talking at the table about your karaoke skills.
Yes, occasionally.
I'm not going to ask you that. But your brother said a very sneaky thing just as I was getting up, and he said that I must ask you about your tattoo.
My tattoo? Yes, yeah. There you go, there's my tattoo. You can all see my tattoo. Right, I was 61 on Monday, alright? But last year I was 60. And I just decided for my 60th birthday present I was going to get myself a tattoo. But it took me 6 months to decide, when I knew I wanted to Yorkshire Rose, because that's a play. and so this is actually a rose that was above a hotel that we'd gone to for my sister's birthday, her 50th birthday. And so I photographed it and I got a tattoo artist to tattoo on me. So it's a Yorkshire Rose and it's actually in Leeds United's colours. But now, of course, once you get one tattoo, you can't stop. And I don't know, what shall I get tattooed next? I don't know.
I think something Professor Monica Grady. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Winifred. Yes, I didn't want President Grady to leave. Monica, thank you so much. It's always so good to listen to you and to see how you bring out our guests and give them a chance to speak. So thank you very much for doing it. We have a gift for Professor Grady. I've had to give the others in less salubrious conditions as they were leaving and rushing to trains, etc. But we would like you to receive this. Here we are. Council to come and hand over this gift. Canon Wing, where are you? And then we'll give Professor Grady a chance to speak on behalf of the graduates to us.
I shall open this in a minute and then we'll have a look at what it is. I just want to say it has been a huge pleasure and a huge honour to be given a degree from Liverpool University. I've told several people that when I got the letter I was overwhelmed and I burst into tears because it made me so happy that a place, and I have to admit that I didn't know anything about Liverpool Hope University, they sort of recognised and cared of me and wanted to honour me in this way. And it's not an honour, it is an honour for me, but it's not just me, it's all the people that I work with, all the teams that I work with. It's my institution, the Open University, not a rival because we're very different. But I've grown up with the Open University with its mission as to be open to people, places, methods and ideas. And I've heard here today that Liverpool Hope is like that as well, in spirit, with the extra ecumenical aspect. And talking to Sir Peter, the other graduate, honorary graduate today, he felt the same, so impressed by the atmosphere of joy and thanksgiving in the cathedral today. And on behalf of the other 3 graduates who can't be here today, I would like to thank you so much for introducing us to this. Now, I don't know whether I'm also thanking you for the undergraduates who graduated today, but seeing them in the cathedral, knowing the fantastic record of Liverpool Hope for jobs, knowing the fantastic record for student satisfaction, seeing the beautiful campus with its marvellous gardens that I understand the Vice Chancellor has a lot to do with, I can understand the happy, smiling faces. Because you never leave somewhere like this. You always keep it in your heart. And although I haven't studied here, I've talked to so many people, and I really hope that I can, help in any way I can to be a part of Liverpool Hope University. It has been an honour and a privilege, and I know the other graduates feel the same. And I just want to thank you all so much for thinking of us and honouring us in this way. You have honoured us.